Fantastic. All right, baby lemon impossible pies. Now there are a couple of recipes out on the internet that for this recipe. And when I was growing up, we used to do one with it had coconut and eggs and milk and all the rest of it. So I saw that this one's a little bit different, but so you will find other options out there. Great. So when we read a recipe, we're looking at the title, of course. We look at the prep time. Now, prep time says 10 minutes. That's if you're Speedy Gonzales. This will take a lot longer than 10 minutes. I would say probably about half an hour at least to do that. We're not in a rush and we're going to chit chat together and I'll talk to you about things. So it will well and truly go over half an hour. Cook time, it says 20 to 25 minutes. Fantastic. And it serves 12. Perfect. Whenever you come to any of Kids Love to Cook recipes, you'll see that we have arrows. And the red arrows on the recipe are about safety, making sure that you're safe. Now, some of you will be super capable. You'll be a challenger cook, and so you'll be able to handle those yourself. If there is anything on the recipe that you need help for, just go and ask someone at home or ask if you can leave it until the end. Most important thing of all is you being safe. And so that's why those red arrows are there, just to make sure that I might say to you, if you're not sure about this step, go and get someone else's help. Brilliant. All right, so we're going to read through our ingredients. Now, you'll see on my left-hand side all of my ingredients, and you'll see on my right hand all of my equipment. I do that intentionally so that I'm organised. There is a term in French cooking called mise en place, and that just means putting things into place. And that's what we do with cooking. Getting organised in the first place is key to a nice, smooth, relaxing cook. Excellent. Okay, so eggs. We've got some eggs there. And remember, you don't need to worry about volumes at this stage. All we're doing is checking over that you've got everything there. And that way, instead of running across your kitchen sort of looking for things mid-recipe, you know that everything is out on your bench. Perfect. So you'll need some eggs. You'll need some lemon curd. You'll need a lemon. You'll need some plain flour. I've got my plain flour there. You'll need some butter. You'll need some condensed milk. You'll need some milk and some ice and sugar. Perfect. Equipment, you'll need some measuring cups and measuring spoons. You'll need some muffin pans, or if you haven't got big muffin pans, you could use some ramekins. So I think I'm going to use ramekins because the recipe says 1 cup measures. Well, my little ones here aren't ideal for that, so I'm going to use some ramekins. You can make smaller impossible pies to fit the muffin tray if you want. Beautiful. So muffin pans, electric mixer. You can have either your stand mixer or your hand mixer, depending what you've got at home. You'll need a large bowl, a spatula. Here's my spatula. Beautiful. A baking pan is only if you're going to use ramekins. Oven mitts, a cooling rack. But there was something else that I thought you would need. My suggestion is that you get a pen. So if you haven't got a pen already, grab yourself a pen, because when you come to cooking class, take notes. So when we make something, you might say, okay, great, I loved that, but then halfway through the recipe, I might say to you, actually, you know what, we're going to increase that, or we're going to change that, and then we just take notes. And that way when the next time you go to make the same thing, you're an expert. Fantastic. All right, let me put that on. Move that. Fantastic. Excellent. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is preheat our oven to 100. We're going to do 100, and it says 160 fan forced. So if you've got a fan forced oven, put it on to 160 degrees. 160 degrees fan forced. If you haven't done that already. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to grease our muffin, either use your muffin tins or your ramekins. So you can do that just by using a spray if you want to, like the spray oil. The other option that you can do is we can melt some butter. So I'm just going to melt, oops, a daisy. I'm just going to melt about 30 grams of butter just in the microwave. Won't even need that, I'd say. And we're going to grease and flour. So this might be a little bit different than what you've done before. This is an approximate. So about 30 grams, about a tablespoon of butter. I'm going to pop it into the microwave for about 30 seconds. I'm just going to move all those things out of the way. All right. When we separate eggs, I will always use just a single, like a single little bowl to separate the eggs. So I do it egg by egg. So I make a little crack, and then there's a couple of ways you can separate eggs. You can either move them very slowly between the shells, and then we're putting our yolks into our big bowl. And then I'm pouring my whites into a spare bowl. The other way to do it is simply crack your egg, and with your hand, you can just very easily scoop your yolk and pick it up. Now, not everybody likes to touch the egg. That is another way to do it. Fantastic. Where is my... So I'm going to paint, yeah. I'm going to grease my ramekins with a little bit of melted butter. So you can do your muffin trays as well. If you don't have a pastry brush, you can always fold over a piece of paper towel and use a piece of paper towel. There is always more than just one way to do anything in cooking. There's always multiple ways to kind of achieve a task. Now, the reason we're flouring our ramekins, which is a little bit different than what we would normally do, is because we want to create a little, like a crust, is that the right word? Like a little barrier between the liquid and the edge of the pan, because we don't want it to bake on. So all I'm doing is taking, see, I've got a 1/4 cup measure here, and I'm just running the flour around the edges so that it's all coated on the inside. And then I'll do the same thing with the next ramekin. Just shake a bit of flour into it. When I was growing up, my mum never used baking paper. She would do this for every single cake that she made. So I'm literally just got like a tablespoon of flour, shaking it around, and we're creating a little barrier between the wall of the ramekin or the wall of your muffin tray so that it's going to stick less. It'll still stick a bit, but not as much. Once you've done your grease and flouring, the next step is that we're going to measure out half a cup of lemon curd or lemon butter. I've just picked one up from Woolies today. And we're going to add that to our egg yolks. So half a cup. And we're going to add some lemon rind a little bit later. When you're cooking, make sure that you pop your lids on as you finish with something. That makes your pack down so much easier. Fantastic. So I'm just measuring half a cup of lemon curd into my egg yolks. So I've got my lemon curd and my egg yolks in together. Before I start mixing them, I am going to measure. I've got my lemon and my lemon zester ready to go. And I'm also going to measure out 2/3 of a cup of plain flour, 2/3 of a cup of plain flour into just a little bowl or a cup at the side so that when we've finished the next step, we're going to have this nice and ready. So 2/3 of a cup. And I'm not going to do that at all. You might see on recipes spooned and leveled. So spooned and leveled when we measure is so that we get an accurate measure of flour. Because if you go into your container and sort of compound the flour together, like press it down really hard, you might end up with too much. Whereas this way, you just give it a measure, well, can't do that, nice and flat, and then you add that to your little bowl. So you're measuring out 2/3 of a cup of plain flour. 2/3 of a cup of plain flour. We're just getting everything ready to go so we don't have to stop and start. 2/3 of a cup of plain flour. Fantastic. 2/3 of a cup of plain flour. Brilliant. Okay, and then we're going, I don't want to race ahead. So where are we at? Okay, who has measured their flour? Great, Liviana, fantastic. Yep, yep, great, all of you. All right, excellent. You're all on the money. All right, the next thing that we're going to do is we need to melt 125 grams of butter. 125 grams of butter. So there are two ways that you can measure your butter. If you've got a set of scales, which I would encourage you to get just a cheap one from Woolies, you can always measure that way. The quick way, not so accurate, but the quick way is to look at the outside of your pack of butter. Any brand, anywhere, it will give measurements. So this one's in 50 gram segments. So 125, I'm going to guess it, but then I'm going to measure it. Pop it in a bowl. You can either put it into a saucepan and melt it, or you can pop it in the microwave, depending on what you do in your family. We often have people that don't use microwaves, so you would then just do that in a saucepan. And my butter was frozen, and now what does my grams? Fantastic, 128. That was a very good guess. All right. Before I pop it in the microwave, I'm going to break it up a bit so it melts faster. And the same thing, if you're going to pop your butter into a little saucepan, break it up into smaller pieces. And that way it's got more surface area and it will melt faster. Fabulous. Excellent. All right, that's another minute. So the butter is going to be melted, but we need it to cool down. So that's the reason that we're doing it now, is cooling our butter down. We can just leave it on the workbench and you can even give it a whisk so that it's not hot, because if we add hot butter to our egg mixture, it's going to curdle or make scrambled eggs. That's not what we're after. So if yours is already melted, that's fabulous. What we're going to do is we're at step 3 on the recipe. Step 3, using an electric mixer, beat your egg yolks and your lemon curd together for 3 to 4 minutes or until very pale and thick. All right, fantastic. So we're going to start doing that. I'm rescuing my butter. So I've just got my butter there and I'm going to let that just cool down. I am going to give it just a quick little stir, because when you cook something in the microwave, it cooks in one particular spot. So I'm stirring it just to get that circulating and to really stop it cooking. Fantastic. All right, here we go. Excellent. Charlie's there. Fantastic. Okay, now the different kinds of beaters that we've got. So if I use my KitchenAid, I'd probably have a greater volume. I've just used my cheap little Woolies one for them, or whatever it is, Kmart one for the moment. But so yours might look, I'll start again. Yours might look paler than mine. That's okay. All right, the next thing, we're going to grate our lemon rind. Grate your lemon rind into your mixture. And of course, I picked the most waxiest lemon ever. That's better. So this will give it a freshness. Right, just do the outside. Oh my gosh, this is when you're zesting, make sure that you don't go too deep, because we only want the outside of that beautiful lemon. If you go too far into the white, you'll get the bitter pith. So we don't want pith, we want zest or rind. There we go. So my lemon was too waxy, so I had to use a larger grater. And I'm just using that outside bit. Beautiful. Daisy. I'm just running my knife down the edges to loosen a little bit. I don't want my mix. There we go, that's better. Perfect. Great. When you finish adding your lemon rind, I'm going to add my flour. I'm just popping it through a sieve just to lighten a little bit. If you don't have one, it's not the end of the world, but I just use this just to get rid, there we go, just to get rid of any little, why is that there? Why is that even in my flour pack? I don't know. Great. You can always still use the insides of your lemon, even if you've used the zest on the outside. There's nothing wrong with the juice at all. So we're at step 4, add the lemon rind and the flour and then beat until combined. So that's not going to take very long at all. So we'll just always start on low with your beaters. I'm scraping down the side. See, that was like 30 seconds and it was combined. Beautiful. Fantastic. Just give it another quick 30 seconds. And then we're going to slowly add our butter. Make sure my butter is definitely cooling. In fact, I'm going to pour my sweetened condensed milk into my butter just to cool my butter down a bit. I don't want to add that butter too hot, so I'm going to cool it down by adding the condensed milk to my butter, and that will bring the temperature of my butter down. You don't have to mix it or anything, just give it a quick stir. Just give it a quick little stir. That will just bring the temperature down on your butter. Beautiful. Excellent. And then we're going to slowly add so it says, with the beaters on low speed, gradually add the condensed milk. So we're going to, hang on, turning it on just low and slow. Otherwise you'll be splashed. And then with the rest of that jug, I'm just adding the 1 cup of milk, and that's just going to pick up any of the condensed milk that I've got. So I've got the 1 cup of milk that I've added to the jug, 1 cup of milk. So now I've got all of my beautiful mixture, and then I've got 1 cup of milk, and then we're going to beat that in now as well. So we're at step 6. We've added the condensed milk, we've added the butter, and now we're going to add the milk. Same thing, low speed. Fantastic. So I've got all of my lemon mixture, and now I've added my egg white to a separate bowl, and I'm going to wash my beaters. All right, so now I'm going to beat my egg whites with clean beaters. So I put my egg whites into a separate bowl, and I'm going to add, a pinch of salt, just a pinch of salt. Fabulous. So I've got my egg whites into a separate bowl, and I'm going to start beating my egg whites. Beating my egg whites with a pinch of salt. All right. Let me know if I'm going too fast. All right, so I've got great egg white and it's not moving. So when your egg white doesn't move, in fact, you should be able to put it over your head. I'm not even going to try that just in case it doesn't, but you should be able to move your egg white and it stay. If it doesn't move, then your egg white is mixed enough. Great. You might have seen that when you can see a picture on the internet. Listen to me, how old I am. So if you can turn it upside down and it doesn't mix, it doesn't fall out or move, you're perfect. All right then, we are now step 8. Step 8. Okay, so now we're about to do folding. All right, so folding, we're going to take 1/3 of our mixture and pop it into our egg mixture, and we're just going to stir it around. Now, I've got mixture at the bottom, so just folding it through. So folding is not beating, folding is just slowly, so that it's kind of incorporated together. You'll see, instead of seeing lumps, it's broken up a bit. Beautiful. When it's like that, it doesn't look very attractive. It looks like soup. And then I'm going to do the next 1/3. Going all the way to the bottom so that your condensed milk, which is wanting to separate, is getting caught up. And then we can put the rest of that in. Beautiful. And the idea is it should be just combined. So like the recipe said, you might have some lumps. That's okay. But it should be a fairly smooth mixture now. I'm just using the back of my spoon. Beautiful, just to get some of those big lumps. Beautiful. Okay. I reckon I've got so much of it. I've got a little quiche dish. Oops, Rosie. I've got a little quiche dish that I'm going to use as well, just for any extra, because I think I'm going to have more than enough. So Daisy. Now, the trick is getting it into our dishes. So you can either use a jug. I've got a jug here that I might use. Or if you want to spoon it in, you can spoon your, oops, Daisy, no. Spoon it in. 2/3 of the way. Just take your time and try to move your ramekins as close to your bowl as possible so that you're not spilling mixture all over the workbench. Yum, it smells amazing. Great, great. All right then. So my suggestion is that you put your ramekins or even your muffin tray onto another baking tray so that it's just more stable. So rather than sort of moving around a bit, it will just make it easier to take things in and out of the oven. So before you put it into the oven, open your door, make sure that your oven tray is on the right level that you want it to be and that there's nothing else in there. And then very carefully, using tea towel, dry tea towel or oven mitts, you can slide your tray or trays into the oven. Perfect. And then we're going to put our timer on for 20 minutes. 20 minutes. And this is one of those recipes that it needs to be slightly wobbly in the middle, but as it cools down, it will firm up. So it's like a creme brulee in a way. When you pull the creme brulee out of the oven, it's wobbly in the middle, or just like a wiggly, not even wobbly, wiggly. But then as it cools down, it firms up. Yum. So the recipe says set aside in the pan to cool completely. And if you want to, you can try eating them tonight. The other way is if you want to keep them to tomorrow, and then you can pop them into the fridge and then you can have them chilled. It's completely up to you. Brilliant. Then, of course, we do the pack away, wipe down and wash up at the end of cooking.